All right, Nick Wright, first things first, now joining us. So, point out, look at, he's already got a smile. See, he's already going to come in with...
I'm just thrilled. You know why I have a smile?
Why?
I was thinking about something, and this is going to sound, I don't know, self-congratulatory, maybe even arrogant. But, Colin, is 1 to 1:30 on Tuesdays on the Herd the best half hour in all of sports television? The Herd hierarchy right into you and me, and then J-Mac pokes holes in the hierarchy. I think this might be the best 30 minutes in sports TV. And it's just I was like, and for me to be a part of it is thrilling. I'm smiling. I actually like the hierarchy in large part. I want to talk about the Eagles for a moment. Yeah. And then, of course, we can get to the disrespected and overlooked defending champion Chiefs at 4. So on Friday, it seemed like a lot of the conversation surrounding the Eagles, if people were asking questions, was about their offense. That's not my concern for Philadelphia. My concern for Philadelphia is much more simple and, to me, much more obvious. Is their pass defense downright bad? And I understand that sounds odd because they get to the quarterback so well. But last year, Colin, they played 6 above-average quarterbacks. Goff, Cousins, Trevor, Rodgers, Dak, and Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. 5 of the 6 lit them up. 5 of you take Cousins out, they average 33 points per game. This year, they've let Mac Jones throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, which is like letting a real quarterback throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, and Kirk Cousins throw for 360 and 4 scores. Is Philadelphia's secondary and back end of their defense the weakest unit of anyone in the top 5, on either side of the ball? Yeah. I would argue yes, and I think that's a big problem for them, Colin, if this year they don't get 70 sacks like they got last year. That's my concern for Philly.
Now, I will say this. There is psychology to football because there's an intimidation aspect to hockey and football, maybe over a baseball or basketball. Yeah. It does look pretty clear to me that when the ascending young talented Jags face the experienced Chiefs, they gag a little. Like you can feel late in that game, you could feel Jacksonville get a little tight in the red zone, like, oh boy. Yeah. And it was a real thing. Yeah, it came to the TV. You can sense. It's like Sacramento with the Lakers for years. You're like, they match up pretty well, and they can't make the jumpers. Like, I think Jacksonville has a Chiefs issue.
And by the way, the record reflects that. Colin, I don't know why more people weren't pointing this out. Jacksonville's last 13 games, they are 9-1 against the league and 0-3 against Kansas City.
Yeah.
So the last 13 games, they've been awesome, except for the 3 times they've played the Chiefs. And by the way, the last 2, the Chiefs were gettable. The playoff game, Patrick Mahomes gets maimed by Arden Key in one of the dirtiest, potentially most criminal plays in NFL history. I'm not sure if that investigation's even closed. They couldn't get him there. And then on Sunday, the Chiefs' offense was not sharp. That Jacksonville seemingly lived in the red zone, and you know how much I love Trevor, and I believe in Trevor. They couldn't punch it in. They couldn't make it happen. But on the Chiefs side of things, if I may, Colin, I understand, I said they were going to go 20-0, and they promptly lost week 1. So everyone's having a nice laugh at their old buddy Nick Wright. That's fair. I earned that. That's fine. But if you were to tell me going into the year that 2 weeks into the season, not only would the rest of the AFC be in disarray, the Bengals haven't won, Burrow's dinged, Josh Allen is up and down, the AFC West is a total mess as it seemingly has been since Mahomes got there. But you would also tell me, guys, there's a big concern with the Chiefs. One overwhelming problem through 2 weeks, and it's the passing game. I would have been over the moon.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I think 15's going to figure it out.
Yeah.
I think the most talented quarterback we've ever seen will make it work. Oh, Nick, but how can they win with these receivers? They did last year. Well, they had McCole Hardman. McCole Hardman can't get on the field for the Jets. They had Juju. Juju can barely get on the field for the Patriots. They won with these receivers last year. And the reason the Chiefs right now might be, by the end of the season, the most dangerous Chiefs team since Mahomes has been there, is, Colin, this is going to be a top 8 defense and maybe a top 5 defense.
Yeah, it is.
They've spent all that draft capital on defense. Chris Jones is back and really giving a testament to a training camp meaning nothing, at least for certain positions. And that defense is fast.
Yep.
That defense had the second most sacks in the league last year, but nobody cared. And so if you're telling me the thing the Chiefs got to work on is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes' passing game, I think they'll be fine. This Chiefs defense might, by the end of the year, Colin, be a top 2 defense in the AFC and a top 5 defense in the league.
So I was thinking about this, is that a quarterback and a coach don't have to be best friends. Brady, Belichick didn't have dinner 20 years, as long as they win. Russell and Pete Carroll were fine when they were winning. They're 2 different people. Yeah. So sometimes you get lucky. Montana Walsh, personality works. Don Coryell, Dan Fouts, works, right? Yeah. The clever coach. Right, Mahomes and Reed. That's ideal. But you can win with a coach and a quarterback who are different personalities. You can get along if you win. Yeah. Russell, Pete started losing, trouble. Well, I look at Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. I could argue there are not polar opposite personalities in the league that are greater than these two. One guy is urgent, harsh, authentic, not polished, can get himself in trouble, Sean Payton. The other guy is refined, optimistic,
That's right.
always a light at the end of the tunnel. It works only one way, if they're 2-0, right? They're 0-2. Your takeaway on how fast this could go sideways.
And I'll add to your argument, I don't think Tomlin and Big Ben have a lot of similarities, but it worked really well when the team was really good and they were winning. And so I think you make a good point. So I think the Broncos right now have a lot of issues. And I want to be clear here. Russell Wilson has been better than he was last year.
Yes.
He also has been, in the second half of games, a bottom 5 quarterback. In the second half of these games, he's been terrible both weeks. They just blew an 18-point lead at home to Sam Howell and the Washington Commanders. That can't happen, and Russ needs to be better. Also, Sean Payton has put himself in a rough spot, because when you say, I'm going to be pissed off if we don't make the playoffs, and you say that was the worst coaching job in NFL history, when through 2 weeks you've lost to Jimmy G and the Raiders, you've blown an 18-point home lead, you lead the league in penalties, there's a lot of the same getting the play in, the kind of slow process that plagued Nat Hackett and the Broncos, you're going to all of a sudden going to catch some heat, which is why, I said this a month ago, and those jackals that I work with on First Things First laughed at me. But I think Baker Mayfield will be the starting quarterback for the Bucs for a longer time than Russell Wilson will be the starting quarterback for the Broncos. Sean Payton is not going to go down with the Russell Wilson ship. He's just not. And while people can say whatever they want, you can read intention through action. And 2 years, $10 million for Jared Stidham being one of your major offseason moves, that's not in case Russell Wilson gets hurt. That's in case they need to pull the plug on Russell Wilson. And if you look at what they play the Chiefs on a Thursday, and then the Packers, and then the Chiefs again before their bye.
Yeah.
They're going to lose all 3 of those games. They have a couple games between then, playing the Dolphins, which is not an easy one. I think Russell Wilson doesn't make it through the bye as the starter for Denver with the way things are going.
Wow. Yeah, let's see.
I mean,
Miami
they'll beat the Bears.
And they'll probably beat the Jets with Zach Wilson.
Yes, but all of a sudden, that's the Jets Super Bowl. J-Mac thought they were going to be in the actual Super Bowl, but now it's the Nat Hackett Super Bowl, Week 5. If there was ever a game they're going to be motivated, we got to win one for old Nat Hackett. I'm just saying. But even if they win Bears-Jets, Chiefs-Packers-Chiefs is a rough spot. Okay. That is, and then, by the way, Buffalo the following week after the bye.
Okay, so there is an argument to get Kirk Cousins in New York. The argument is you're renting him, and then he's gone. They have about $10 million in cap space. That's about what he would cost, right? Because the Vikings they've paid most of it. And then basically you bring him in and you let him go. As long as you don't have to give up draft capital because you need a left tackle, another young quarterback, more weapons. You don't need defense. That's the argument for it. My argument against it is, oh, really? You think Kirk Cousins with Nat Hackett and that O-line in a division now where Miami looks incredible, New England will be a tough out because Belichick, and Kirk Cousins is learning the playbook in the season? It just feels like chaos. I mean, are you for it?
I'm for the Jets doing something at quarterback. They cannot, the status quo is not palatable, and they know it. And the Jets knew Zach Wilson wasn't the guy last year when half the team was on the sidelines wearing Mike White t-shirts in front of Zach Wilson. And now they want us to believe through the power of Aaron Rodgers' osmosis that they all believe in him. No, they don't. Listen, I don't blame Zach. It's not his fault. He's being asked to do something he can't do, which is play quarterback in the NFL. He can't do it. I've seen him do the roll right, throw left across his body 100 times. It's gotten picked off 15 times in his young career. It's not going to work. So I don't know if you have to go as extreme as Kirk Cousins. I do think they should absolutely call New Orleans about Jameis Winston. I do think there you have at least a shot if the defense is as good as people hope it can be. Here's what I know, though. I know, and the Jets know, and Robert Saleh knows, that Zach Wilson is not starting the next 15 games. And neither is Boyle, that they are whoever their quarterback for the majority of the season is going to be is not currently on the roster. So the sooner they admit that to themselves and to everyone, the better chance they have of salvaging something, because while the Super Bowl hopes almost assuredly went down when Rodgers did, with the team this young, Colin, playing relevant games, sneaking into the playoffs and getting that experience for the head coach, for Garrett Wilson, for Sauce, for Quinnen Williams, that's valuable in my opinion, and they have no shot of doing it with Zach Wilson.
But generally speaking, even if you have a great quarterback, there's a down year. You know, Aaron Rodgers got hurt. Packers were bad. It happens. I look at the Bengals and I'm like, something doesn't feel right. This calf injury, I've had one before and have had friends who have had one. They last forever. You can't get rid of them. You think you're over it. You play, you restrain it. I look at Cincinnati and I'm like, this isn't just a reboot. They're a mess, right? This was
year
the
from
Chiefs.
hell.
Yeah.
Might be. Listen, and Colin, I know that, there are certain things I believe in that you maybe don't. And one of them are the sports gods. And, I just can, every time I get a chance, I, present you a piece of evidence and I let you decide if you're going to continue to be a nihilist or if you're going to agree that sports gods exist. What I would tell you is the Cincinnati Bengals were the hottest team in the NFL. They had won 10 games in a row.
Yeah.
They had gone to Buffalo and blown them out in the playoffs. And then, in the waning moments of that game, I don't know if you remember what happened, but I do, a new word came into the lexicon, and that word was Burrowhead. Burrowhead Stadium was where they were going, and they were going so excited to be back to Burrowhead, where they had won a grand total of one game ever because they owned Patrick Mahomes. And since then, the Cincinnati Bengals have not won a game as a franchise. That's just the facts. And their star quarterback is limping around and is playing the worst football he's ever played. So I'm not saying correlation causation. What I am saying is it does feel a lot like a year from hell for them, Colin. Yep. And they also made I respected it, but a risky decision this offseason in what they did, or more accurately, didn't do with T. Higgins. So they could have traded T. Higgins for a first-round pick, because are you really going to be able to re-sign Chase and keep T. Higgins in free agency after the inevitable contract goes to Joe Burrow? They said, we're running it back, we're that close. Well, if all of a sudden this year goes to hell, and then you can't re-sign T. Higgins, I know Joe Burrow said the Super Bowl window is there his entire career, and that's true to a degree. But that doesn't mean it's always as open in one year as in the next.
Right.
And if you look at their schedule, Colin, they have 4 more divisional games. They're 0-2 in the division. I think they have Buffalo, San Francisco, Jacksonville, Seattle, Kansas City. It can get late very early in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And the line moving from 6.5 to 2.5 tells me Vegas thinks Joe Burrow is not playing this weekend.
Yeah, and the other thing that hurts them, whereas the Chiefs dominate their rivals in division, Lamar Jackson owns the Bengals, and the Browns have played great against him. You know, for years, Big Ben dominated Cincinnati, dominated Cleveland, just put 4-0 down. They struggle in division. They can't block Cleveland, and Pittsburgh's got a great defensive front, so Cincinnati's got a real issue. They are in a division with teams that match up really well with them. Chargers kind of match up with Kansas City, but you don't trust them. Raiders don't, and Denver's a work in progress. That is a big advantage. So, Nick Wright, first things first, the show is on fire, ascending, a comet growing.
You guys.
Well, we're doing okay.
That's you guys. Well, you and J-Mac. Just, ratings bonanza.
Yeah.
That's why, and by the way, the best half hour in sports television, Tuesdays, 1 o'clock on the Herd. That's what you should market it as. You and me, we did some commercials or something. Talk to you later.
All right. See you, buddy. I'll talk to the executives upstairs. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.